nothing in, if there's,
Good evening. This is the Rutland Town Planning Commission, and it's January 2nd of 2025. Get that out. Welcome, everyone. Let's begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We definitely have a quorum. We've got Sherman, we've got Andy, and we've got Dana and Howard and Mary Beth and Norm as an alternate.
So there are only 7 of us, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7.
Okay, Norm is a regular
Yep.
and
Because we're missing Jerry and we're
Mary
missing.
Beth. Okay, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda. Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public comment. No public here. New business. We were hoping to connect with Mr. LaVictoire, but apparently that's not going to happen this evening. We'll try again in 3 weeks. Bill?
Yep.
Okay. So he owns several parcels of land, and he's hoping to, including his own.
No, he doesn't
Someone-
live there. No, no.
And he's hoping to sell one of those, and he's running into some issues that we thought it would be best to clear up with this group and in person or by Zoom phone. So we'll move down to the VELCO Thomas subdivision, and I made copies of the 2 maps or surveys that Jim Goss had sent along with his letter. And I think I've read this about 10 times, and I may understand what's needed, which I don't think is very much. There was some action and subdivision permit in 2010. And then in 2022, that was changed a bit. But the only thing on file right now is Exhibit A. Is that correct, Bill? And they're offering to do a Mylar, which would essentially be Exhibit B, which would show all of the changes. They mostly pertain to lots 1 and 4 on the north end.
I always thought A is correct. VELCO did theirs, they took that. But I don't,
Right.
I couldn't figure out, like, in the B they give, it shows 2 basically being like all that frontage. I don't
On
know.
Post Road.
Post Road.
Yeah, I don't know if that was right.
I almost agree with you. Initially, it was just 4 lots.
Yep.
And then what happened later was VELCO took, they picked up another piece. In fact, when VELCO picked it up, did we do a subdivision or a boundary line adjustment? How did we handle that?
We did a subdivision. They didn't want a subdivision, but we asked them to go through that
So my
process.
recollection was, and I can't remember what we went through, but I do remember the process. And they needed, because they had almost a landlocked little piece, which is, I guess, 2 on here, on the original one. And we had to give them a right of way to cross, I think it was 1. But what I'm seeing on here is I have in the upper, if we're looking at the northern part, to the right of parcel 1, there looks like there's a rectangle, a small box next to the entryway to the reserve center. And what I mean by that is this.
That's the access road, isn't it? The access.
Yeah,
road?
this access road. And,
Yeah.
and for some reason, I thought we had to do something with a right of way. But what's this rectangular box that doesn't seem to be in one or in two? Or was that actually part of two originally? Because it's all marked out in red.
Well, it's hard to see.
Yeah, it
Really
is.
difficult.
It is very difficult to see. So my recollection also was, I don't remember ever, but I could have missed a meeting, that would be reasonable, ever moving towards the proposed number 2. And maybe we never did do that. But that would be at least a boundary line adjustment. Because parcel 1, which I think is current and approved, I was having difficulty getting to from where we are, although I had a question about that rectangle up there. To number 2, because I don't ever remember having,
Our
Any
parcel
discussion?
maps,
Huh?
our town parcel maps would probably clearly show it.
yeah,
If we could, Bill, on a town parcel maps.
Yeah.
Chance we could take a peek at your set of maps, because I think,
I pulled what I had from the. I got a 1 of 2 and 2 of 2 that. I've only got 2 copies, but I'll give you what I got, but this is what they included with their application. Well, I won't share, but I'll get parcel maps up and.
Is exhibit A what's on the Mylar
thank you.
that's on file right now?
This is what I remember.
I can't go and tell you right
What
now.
is,
Yeah, see,
I
I
don't remember
remember
what
we,
this is.
isn't there, didn't they do some kind of a little building in here? There was some kind of, they, that's what
Yes,
I remember.
right.
Not so much the right of ways, I don't. 'Cause I thought this solved that problem.
maybe it did. maybe
Yeah,
it does
that's, the right of ways are in there.
In there, okay.
And so that's this, okay, so there's the reserve building and that's this, but then there's this little parcel here. Which is.
Yeah, and I don't remember that. I just,
Yeah, it's, it's long enough back, I don't have a
Where-
clear
where is
recollection of
two?
it anyway.
where's number 2 on this original map, Bill?
I
In
think,
exhibit A.
I gave you my copy of my original, so I don't have them.
I think it must be in that
let's see,
there. Isn't that the 2?
these are shown.
So whose is that?
There's a circle. There's one clear circle and
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. But
I think that's the 2.
But I thought 2 was the parcel that housed the reserve center, but that's marked on 3.
That's on 3? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, the
Lot
new
one
one,
is depicted as
3 is
parcel
reserve,
limited.
yeah.
Conveyed, lot 1 is depicted as parcel. Lands to be conveyed to Army Reserve. Yep. And owned by Maxwell. You will note that there is a specific subdivision line between what's marked as lot 1 and lot 4, yep. With a very small portion of lot 4 wrapping around, yep. It's conveyed to the around the southern line, lot 3, which was conveyed to the Army Reserve. There's no mention of 2, and I'm confused. Or did I just skip 2? Where is 2 in all of this? Because 2 actually gives access to the Army Reserve, and that's the question that I was asking earlier in terms of my recollection. I thought that had to be an easement or something because it was landlocked.
Can I suggest we just table this thing and ask them to bring in
Go over
something
this
that
again.
we can, something we can read
Yeah,
and have somebody that wants to explain
I
it to
fumbled
us.
through that stuff. It's so hard to follow what they're.
Yeah,
I read it twice myself, just to try to, lot 2. Okay, as a consequence,
right,
that's his second to last paragraph. The only change that was made in 2022 to lot 1 was to cut off the northernmost portion and combine it with lot 2. But who owns lot 2? It doesn't say
Oh,
Who,
and looks like from this map that if that's the only circle that's unassigned.
Yep.
That couldn't possibly have tied in. That would have to tie in with Army Reserve.
right, and that's why I had asked the question.
Yeah, so let's,
2 years ago about, if this doesn't belong to the Army Reserve too, then doesn't there need to be a right of way or an easement
yeah, but I
to
think,
be able to get to
yeah,
Post
of
Road?
course,
I mean,
of course there has to be.
right. And that was significant then, and I don't remember what the answer was to that.
I think, so let's just get him back in and have somebody give us something more than what we're looking at here.
Bill, do we have the original letter somewhere?
The letter does include PDFs of these two, which you can blow up.
You're talking about this.
Yeah, it has
Yeah,
PDFs of
I'm
those.
talking
They're
about
still
the-
pretty messy.
I'm talking about the previous letter that, when we were originally talking about this subdivision back in 2022 or whenever. Because that would help me.
Is what they're doing.
No, I want the letter that we originally received back in 2022 when we first started talking about the subdivision, the Orrin Thomas subdivision.
The very first letter is 2021.
All right, maybe that's the one then.
Parcel two,
Much to it.
yeah, and I see you looking at Barb, parcel two is right up the left-hand corner.
Yeah,
Mhm,
Right up in there.
mhm, yeah.
but it also it's the parcel that runs from Post Road up to Reserve Center.
Right, it runs up, yeah,
And I think it has that boxed rectangle to the left. There's the corridor one, but it looks like there's also the box rectangle, but I'm struggling to remember.
So what Jim Goss is suggesting is that we've already taken the action that he describes leading up to the last full paragraph. I don't think a map, much less a Mylar, was ever submitted. And he's offering to do that.
I'd have to go back and check. Do we know when that was approved? I mean, we could go back and check the minutes. To double check that, but I'm at a loss myself.
That we currently have.
And even though the boundary line for lot 2, parcel 2 has expanded, it still doesn't provide access directly to parcel 3, which is where the reserve center is.
This, the shape of this parcel here. You got the shape of the parcel here.
Oh, is it just turned differently? No. This is Post
No.
Road here.
Yeah.
This is this.
Post Road here.
this is
Oh, okay,
this.
so
Hold on.
it's
That's-
just,
that's
so
what
let's,
it is.
that's why I think we ought to table it and just, let's get,
That's what it shows at the moment. Parcel.
That's one parcel?
Where it says 4, it's all one.
that's all VELCO now, right?
Yes.
That's all VELCO.
Wait, excuse me, I'm having trouble following. Is the yellow on the map that's on the screen, that outlines the existing parcels, that outlines the property we're now talking about?
Part of it. It does not represent 1 or 4.
It's the part in question.
It represents parcels 1 or 2 and part of 4.
But it's not labeled, correct?
And
Say that again, Norm?
For purposes of following Jim's letter, the numbers that appear on it
I read it online.
have nothing to do with the letter, correct? They don't identify the parcels.
Right. His numbers don't line up to these numbers.
I'm sorry? What did
Norm's
you,
asking if the numbers in Jim's, his designations are the same as these, and they're not. These are his, and these are what we have, so.
Did you hear that, Norm?
not completely, I'm sorry.
The numbers do not correspond
Yes,
between what's on the screen right now and what Jim gave us.
Yeah.
Apparently, what he's trying to
Man,
do,
Howard,
if they're ready to sell lot one, which is where the solar stuff is gonna go. And what he's saying is he just wants you to confirm on behalf of the planning commission that no further town subdivision approval is required to convey lot one in the configuration shown on exhibit B. And that's the lot for the solar, and that's a
Right.
separate lot.
that's-
There's no subdivision there. It's an existing lot. I don't see that there's any subdivision required. It's,
Well, there might be a boundary line adjustment.
So is that's the lot that we see in
Yeah,
yellow?
and actually, looking at the parcel map, I think the parcel map is wrong. It's missing this line right here. These are supposed to connect.
There's supposed to be, no, there's supposed to be a line dividing 4 from 1.
Correct, over here.
Yeah, I can't see it because it's too far.
there.
It's not there. Yeah.
okay.
And because I do remember that was that line has to
There should
come.
be a line right here.
That's
oh,
correct.
right.
Wait a minute. If
And that
Andy,
line is-
if Andy said, if I understood Andy, you said there should be, I'm looking at the exhibit B. And Andy said, if I understood him correctly, there is a line dividing, okay, 1 and 4, and that's just that little line at the bottom, near the bottom of the map. And 4 has a sort of a finger around it that goes around 3. Is that what you're talking about, Andy? The little line right at the end?
No, I didn't. No, not at all.
Because that's the only boundary I see between 1 and 4 that you mentioned, if I heard you
I
correctly.
mentioned something. This is Dana. I mentioned something about that,
Yeah,
but
it was,
Okay,
I don't think Andy did.
it was Dana, I believe, who mentioned it.
Oh.
And all I'm saying is that there needs to be a line, a perpendicular line to that finger, Norman, because on the map that Bill has displayed, it's in yellow and it's very faint. And I couldn't tell whether that line, the boundary line on 1, separating it from 3, extended down to the back boundary of 4. And he says it does, so that's a mistake.
well, on the,
That needs to be corrected.
on the maps that we received in the mail, well, from Bill, which are fairly difficult to read. On both of those maps, there is a line that, as far as I can see it, that separates 1 and 4. 1 and.
That
That's
is-
correct.
That is correct,
Mhm.
Norm. It's just, it's not on the town parcel map.
Oh, I see.
So it needs to be corrected on the town parcel map.
But since this was initially subdivided into these 4 lots, it's like just, you need to add the line. We're not doing a subdivision.
It's a boundary line adjustment.
Properties, the parcels are already there. We just gotta draw a line to make that separation, I think.
Well, it's making parcel 2 bigger than it was. And it's making parcel 1 smaller than it was. So I think that qualifies as a boundary line
Where they
adjustment, no?
say current, it's not, that's not what it is. Their map that says current is
Mhm.
not current.
Mm.
Number, exhibit B is actually what it is now. So he may have gotten his labels backwards.
Acreage is the important thing here, and that's something that it should, the surveyor would have to clarify that.
So-
It should be on the map someplace.
Madam Chair, what I would recommend, I agree I agree in part with what Andy was saying in terms of tabling this. But I think in addition to that, they should come in and explain to us what we can't figure out ourselves.
Yes.
They
And
should-
so there may not need to be additional work, but we're not responding to this letter saying it's all good to go.
Right.
Because we don't understand what they have presented us with. So have somebody come in, talk to us, talk it through, and we will give them guidance about what's needed.
And with something we can read also.
Yeah.
It's more legible than this.
Okay,
A
so,
motion, Dana.
I'd make, okay, now
So
I gotta
moved.
think about it. So moved, yeah. I want to give Bill a little bit of direction so that he doesn't have to try to parcel it out, excuse my pun, based on what I said in 3 different statements. So I would make a motion, Madam Chair, to communicate to Mr. Goss that we need an explanation at an upcoming meeting of what they are actually proposing, because we can't approve something that we don't understand based on the information that's been presented to us.
is there a second?
Second.
Plus, we have
Okay.
different maps all over the place.
Yeah, this is confusing. This is really,
Can we just add to that, that we like maps that are more legible, that we can read?
Can we hold that for a second?
Hmm?
Can we hold that? It was not part of the original motion.
I think it was.
No, it was not.
No,
No,
I
was
made the
asking to
original
add it.
motion.
I think,
So you
I
want to
think the,
hold,
mo-
I want to just vote on the original
I-
motion.
I thought we had, oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
yeah, I thought we discussed it. No, Norm, we're in the discussion stage here.
I was gonna,
Different spots.
I think the motion can be stated more succinctly.
Feel free, Norman. I'll take if you can do it more succinctly than I, more power to you.
I will give it my best shot if I
Go
may.
for it.
Um,
Absolutely.
I suggest that the motion read that we request Mr. Goss to provide materials to appear with materials that clarify the relief he is seeking. It is not clear from what we have received from him. And that we don't understand this, I don't think we need that. I think just request that Mr. Goss provide appear with
Materials.
with materials that clarify exactly what they mean, what he exactly what relief he is requesting from us. That it
Okay,
was
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got 2 motions on the floor.
I am happy to withdraw my motion if the commission believes that Norman has been more succinct and it is clearer to Mr. Goss.
Obviously.
Obviously, okay, well, that I will withdraw my motion.
Amen.
Howard, second.
Howard, do you
I agree.
agree? Okay, there you go. The first motion has been withdrawn.
Okay. So we've got the more succinct motion on the floor. Any discussion of that one? All those in favor?
I would just,
Excuse me.
just to maybe cover something that we didn't cover exactly. If we could indicate that we would like something that is clear and easier to read. I hate for him to come with these.
Right, okay.
uh,
Yeah, I
So
think,
it-
yeah, I
thought
don't
that-
think that needs to be part of the motion, but it can be part of the directive that
I'm good with
Bill
that.
gives.
Okay.
Exactly.
And then I would like it to be an in-person discussion rather than just another set of materials that we will have to wade through and potentially have more
That's in the
questions.
motion, yeah.
Yeah.
And that the next meeting is the 23rd, if you can make it. So we're ready to vote on the motion. All those in favor? Say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. All set, Bill?
Tough one.
All right, that's, yeah. Down to old business. So we were going for a Forest Parks and Rec. It's actually a federal grant that is being administered by Forest Parks and Rec with the state. We got past the first hurdle. So we've been invited to do the full application, and that's due at the end of the month. It's a little more in depth. And they've already highlighted some of their concerns. And it mostly revolves around this brand new form that they're using, the climate resilience risk form. And they haven't done this before, so they're not quite sure. They think they've got it where they want it to be. But I think they may change some things, but in the meantime, they're very concerned about the park. All of the park would be in the flood hazard zone. Some of it's in the floodway, which is really cool, which gets flooded first usually. They've let us know that they would like included in the application our plan for maintaining features that we've put into the park, and whether the maintenance would include or the design even would include ditching, water bars, culverts, and drains to be checked and cleared multiple times per year, and all other features to be checked and maintained yearly or bi-yearly. A plan for addressing invasive species and how to avoid spreading. I think we've got that covered because we have a pretty extensive plan to go in and identify the invasives, get them out, and plant native plants. And please include your plan of how you will close the resource after a major rain or flooding event. So among other
Put up
things,
yellow tape and say, do not cross.
The rough spot.
Sign. Do not enter. Danger. Enter at your own risk. I mean, I don't know.
yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, Simon's Avenue right there is in the flood hazard area.
And everybody lives there.
Despite, the incline from the river on up to Simon's Avenue, even into most parts of the proposed park. Yeah, Howard.
I have a question. The kayak launching, that's not part of this now, is it? We're gonna build,
We took that out.
so that's gone. That's out.
Yeah, we took it out and we're looking at, I don't know where the maps are. So we're looking at just what just what was conveyed to the town. And has that been done, Bill? All right, we've got a deed and we've got an easement has been drafted. Okay, great.
I'll deal return.
Great.
Hopefully that kayak thing is a dead issue. Because I was talking with somebody, guy's probably in his 80s. He says he fished down there on this strip all his life. He fishes the rapids because that's where he wants to fish. He said there is no way that anybody's going to launch anything in that, but they're going to be in trouble. In fact, he suggested going to the river that comes from Castleton and go over there and try to put a launch in. He said, but absolutely no way. And we've heard it before. We've heard concerns. So apparently, I mean, you can see the rapids on the photo here. That water is moving.
Yeah.
It's just not practical.
When I was in Florida, I kayaked a lot. I would never put a kayak in there, except if I was going downstream and had somebody to pick me up, because I don't believe a good kayaker could make any headway against that current. You can paddle about 3.5 to 4 miles an hour, but you're going to be tired out in a big hurry.
But the danger, I guess, of just trying to get into it.
Oh, yeah, it's
Right.
hard to get in a canoe and, I mean, into a kayak unless you can be on something flat and step into it.
So we redid the design for this, and it does not include
No.
the launch was going to be in what is the AOT right of way on the north end,
Mhm.
and almost up at the Business Route 4. So nothing in the right of way is included in the park design right now. So no launch. There is a loop trail, about 700 and something linear feet long.
750, yeah.
And, you know, the overlook and the picnic tables up above are still there, and the trail down to where the Fisher people go. So that's where we're at with design. The boat launch is out.
Yep.
Are there two entrances? One near Route 4 and one in, are
Just
there?
one entrance
Just
now
one entrance.
and one parking lot.
Where's the length of the recreational loop indicated? It's not on the
On
map.
this map here,
It's not-
It is?
I don't know what map you're looking at, but
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at that one, but where's the length?
the length of it, it says right,
It says right,
There's-
there's a little white box.
little box up on Simon's Avenue. it
Oh,
says
loop approximately 750. Yeah, yeah,
Approximate
yeah.
loop, yeah.
I was looking in the legend up above.
It's right where Simmons Avenue too.
That's only about 0.15 of a mile.
So, and we also, let's see, so we, for this particular grant, we're asking at this point, and the budget can change a little bit too. We'll be having some meetings with Forest Parks and Recs about this next phase. But we are asking for a total project cost of $41,652,000. And from the grant, 31,750 would come from the grant, and the town match would be 9,900.
It
And most
doesn't
of
add up.
that, excuse me?
Yeah, it does.
I thought you said 22,000.
Yeah.
How much were you asking? for?
31,750.
We're asking for $31,750.
Okay, I understand. now.
Adding $9,900 in total match would be mostly like the highway crew, some volunteer time. So the total project cost right now is $41,652,653. And the max was $50,000 for this grant.
Well, that's where I got confused. We had 22,000 from the grant. Well, you said 41,000 roughly is the cost. We were getting 22,000 from the grant. The town's match was 9,000, which is 31. And where's the balance coming from?
See, we're asking for 31.7, Norm.
Okay,
31,750.
That's from the grant.
okay,
From the grant.
31.7. And then 9,000 more from the town?
Yeah, and that pretty much adds up to 41,000.
Okay, I did not hear that in the beginning. I heard
Okay, yeah.
20 instead of 31.
Sorry about that.
No,
So that's match of 24%, which is pretty good. We put in $3,500 in case a archaeological review will be needed, which is most likely will be needed, even after all of the work that was done for the federal relicensing for Green Mountain Power. The state was not completely satisfied with what the consultants came up with. for Green Mountain Power. They thought there was more there. And that could include the area we're looking at for the park. We, for the grant project administration, we put in a bill for project coordinator, 80 hours there. And some the planning commission, oversight for trail side and trailhead amenities. We can invite people in and talk about those. For construction, town work crews to cut dead trees, remove debris, install signage and redo parking. A contracted landscaper for identifying and removing invasives and planting, and a planting plan, and consultation with town and stakeholders regarding native species replacements. And also under construction, a contracted trail builder for the loop and picnic area and for restoration of existing trails. And then some construction equipment rental from the town, you know, wood chipper, dump trucks, excavator. And from construction materials, we've got some money in there for trail side and trailhead kiosk and other signage. So that's, yeah, so that's what got us past the first hurdle. Now we'll deal with what the federal government wants. There's a lot of endangered species questions in the grant, as well as these for the climate resilience, the flooding. So if anyone has any ideas on how to word or what we should do about, especially about the flooding, I'm all ears. And once again, the grant is, the deadline is the 31st of January. Any questions?
Who's helping you?
I do have a meeting on the 14th with Mary Ashcroft and Mike Rowe. And I thought I should ask Mike Rowe to the meeting because this is not just filling out the application. If we get the money, there's going to be quite a bit of ongoing work with the maintenance and with keeping records up to date and all that sort of thing. So I just thought it'd be good to familiarize him with what might be coming down the pike and get any ideas he had. And Mary has been, I've been checking in with Mary periodically since the beginning of this with the different stages and things.
I'd be happy to help or review if you want to send me the wording. I am thinking, you know, we live near there and have observed it during flood events and when the water got so high that it almost went over Business Route 4 at the crossing there. It didn't actually flood that the park area. The water came up really high, but and that was a pretty bad flood. So I don't think it actually floods very often, but yeah, I think talking to Mike about how to close that during flooding and in addition to the maintenance, it's a good idea.
Has anyone ever seen the park area flooded?
I haven't seen it, but I've been told that the water gets, you know, way up close to the bridge when it's really, really flooding, which it seemed like it would put that underwater.
Yeah, it would get up to the base of the bridge, the floor of the bridge.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be close.
That's the Route 4
Really the
bridge.
only issue, pardon me.
Is that the route for
Andy?
Goodrich?
Just a minute, Norm.
The
And
only issue would be the picnic tables, really. There isn't gonna be anything else, so.
Right.
And there's no evacuation problems because there's not gonna be a fence. Keeping anyone, if the water starts to rise, keeping anyone from just walking away. I don't see an issue there myself. We just have to put the picnic tables up where they're on the highest ground
which
and
they,
possibly anchor them somehow.
yeah,
Or would they be a type of picnic table that could be anchored and stay in
Mhm.
place?
mm-hmm. Norm?
No, question was answered. Thank you.
Yeah. I
Yep.
mean, that should be easy enough. And that is the highest piece of ground right there.
Yeah.
And, you know, even the loop, the trails they were not going to be primitive, but it was going to be mostly gravel. And there wouldn't be that much of a loss if some of that got washed away.
I've been helping a little bit with Pine Hill Park. They're doing some trails. It's an existing soccer field where part of the trails are, but it is in the flood hazard area. And the feedback that they got was making sure, you know, that gravel is fine, you know, they're doing ADA compliant trails, but that it would need to be flush with the ground. So where the gravel ends up would be level so that you wouldn't increase the elevation at all, basically.
So is that in order for the water to drain? Is that why it would be
Well,
flush?
yeah, and then if it did flood, that there would still be as much flood storage available. I mean, not that would be that much, but
And why is that? Just for the ADA compliant trail sections?
so it's because of using gravel there, because there's a distinction between just the grass or soil. As soon as you start putting gravel in, like kind of a hardened surface, that's when it kind of goes to another level of scrutiny. Not that you shouldn't do it, you know, that would be a good thing to do, but it's considered kind of a different category. 'Cause now it's a
It's
hardened.
Is it supposed to be semi-impervious? Is that why?
Right, and that I think that's part of it. Yeah.
Because it
Okay.
doesn't drain as quickly as soil or grass or sand.
Right, and just something that that would get washed away that you would need to replace versus if it was just grass or soil.
Should this
So I
park
think
be
just-
closed to public under, you know, high water times, nothing for safety or?
Yeah, I mean, at one point, a couple of years ago, we were talking about maybe getting solar powered signage that would alert people when, you know, when it was at flood stage or, you know, or they were thinking it was going to be at flood
Park
stage.
is closed.
You know, that's a little bit expensive and it hasn't been included in any of this signage yet. Might be there probably would be an add-on of some sort, how we would, how we would advertise that, unless we want to squeeze it in into the final application
Does it-
somehow.
Does it need to be that sophisticated?
Doesn't need.
Where it's
I
automatic?
don't know. I
Can
don't think
we-
so.
Describe a procedure where someone,
It's gonna be fairly obvious when the water's rising.
well, where someone goes and puts up a temporary sign.
Yeah. Mary Beth, what do you think of temporary flood signs?
Yeah. Or-
Do they work?
Yeah, I mean, you know, just I definitely talked to Mike Rowe about it. You know, it is on the other side of town from Northwood Park, where the staff would be, but well, and then another option, like there is one neighbor, you know, I live nearby, there's another neighbor that maybe we could have like a volunteer assist. Some kind of volunteer group.
Mm-hmm.
That might be part of emergency management too, like Marty, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That, to close that, but,
good guy.
or just, we were gonna have a kiosk with a sign, I think we're set there anyway. And just maybe putting like part of the sign, like this area has and can flood, you know, pay attention to rising water and you are at your own risk, like, just,
Yeah, there's definitely gonna have to be some legal language
Yeah.
included. Right, Norm?
I would think so.
And for the signage, right now I was thinking of the kiosk, which could be would be two-sided, hopefully, with plenty of room to put general information there. And then maybe 2 or 3 additional signs, probably in that overlook area, maybe one down in the loop trail, about the history, industrial history, maybe indigenous history, wartime, civil, revolutionary wartime history. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff we could do. And that was the idea for getting stakeholder groups together to figure out what the text would be for those signs.
are we still moving the trough over there?
That is not in the cards right now. We could possibly add that in to this grant. I think if they'll let us go above the 41,000. But it would still be going to the AOT, you know, right away. So just, yeah, it gets a little more complicated.
Now it's not doing it any favors, so.
No, it doesn't. But yeah, thank you for reminding me of that one. So in full disclosure, there's enough work here that I'm using some of my the Rutland Regional Plan time to work on this as well. A little bit of both.
Public, Barbara, or anything else you need?
I think that's, unless there's any other suggestions or questions. Mary Beth, thank you for your insights and offer.
Sure.
Okay. On to the river corridor ordinance. We talked about looking at sections 1 through 5. Norm sent me a list of comments, and I'm open to hearing anything you folks have about those sections. Norm's general comments, if I could read those, Norm, if it's okay.
Sure. Or I can just email them out to everybody and not take up time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quickly, it's just moving the definitions, moving them up to the front. Norm had some questions about the Development Review Board, what smaller towns without zoning have done, and this is allowed by statute, is to use a smaller, less formal group called the Board of Adjustment that the select board assigns the members of, to take anything that the zoning officer, the ZO, wants help with,
But in this case, it's the administrative officer, right?
The administrative officer, yes,
We
sorry,
don't have a zoning
the AO.
So Norman, when you said something about moving the definitions up, I did not see any definitions per se.
They're in back.
They're the very
not
back
They're
and-
not part of the first
No,
five
they're,
sections.
Yeah,
they're,
this-
they're at the end of the proposed ordinance.
Section 8.
Oh, definitions. Yeah, they need to be,
It would be nice if they were in front.
yeah, I would agree, because,
Or if there was a reference that they're back there.
right, I had a
Yeah,
comment.
but
about all the
it's hard to work
abbreviations,
with.
And there's no, there
I
is
had-
no consistency in how they're presented.
Right.
Sometimes the first use is spelled out and they include the abbreviation. Sometimes it's not, and
And
you
you-
have to try to figure
And
it
you
out.
keep that comment because not everything is back there anyway.
Right, and so those, my comment was that they need to be either any abbreviations need to be either stated each time, or there needs to be an upfront designation of what those abbreviations mean, and that could be with the definitions.
Yes,
But yeah, and particularly if the definitions are definitions of terms for which there is an abbreviation, the abbreviation should be included among them. And I mean, it would be fine by me, as you suggested, Sherman, to say definitions found at the back of this in section whatever, or appendix whatever. And then you can go back and refer to that. Because otherwise you wade through, now that I've looked at it, you've got 3,
4 or 5
4,
pages.
4.5 pages of definitions. I don't know that people want to wade through that much. But you
it's
shouldn't
the way,
use,
it's the way most statutes and regulations are written, is the definitions come up front, so you know what you're getting to. And, it's not critical in terms of whether the ordinance is desirable or not, but it's just what I'm used to, I guess, from working with this stuff for years.
doesn't matter to me. They just need to be any abbreviation that is used.
I agree that the abbreviation
defined.
should be included either in the definitions or prior to the definitions.
In the same section. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
That's not a question for Kyle, though.
Right. So I did check in with Mount Holly, which passed this ordinance, the model standalone bylaw, about 3 years ago. And it was before the flooding, in the summer flooding of, was it 21, 22 in Ludlow, where Mount Holly did get some flooding too. So
Yep.
the timing was pretty fortuitous. But I was asking about, whether they have a board of adjustment, and they do, but it's hardly been used because the person who has been assigned to be the AO, the administrative officer, has been able to do most of the work that has come forward, or answer the questions, or make the decisions, say, you're exempt, you're not exempt, you need this permit, you're all set. So is there anything else that we might want to ask Kyle, or anything else, Norm?
Yeah, I just thought if you're gonna send out my comments, I ought to expand on one thing briefly, if I may. Because it was not clear to you, and you and I went back and forth on it. I had some reservations about the Board of Adjustment. It wasn't clear to me who was gonna be members of it. And my concern, and Barbara and I emailed back and forth. My concern was, I don't think it's appropriate, given how much how closely we work with Bill, for the Planning Commission to have a majority on the Board of Adjustment. It might imply lack of impartiality. So that was my reservation. I mean, we're very much, if it's an appeal of a decision we make, of course, we shouldn't sit on it. And if it's an appeal of decision that Bill makes, I just think for fairness purposes, we should not be majority.
Mhm, mhm.
So I just
And
wanted, I just wanted that to be clear if you do send out my comments.
And statute says the select board selects the members, the Board of Adjustment. They can be the planning commission, or they can be members of the planning commission and others.
Yeah, well, I think you made that, clear as well, but I thought everybody should understand where I was coming from. Which is often hard to follow.
Yeah, I had
Oh.
I thought of, I had questions directly for the way this was written, but I had other questions that I thought were not were town questions, our problems, and other questions that were both. And one I had was, how is the administrative officer expected to identify development? Or, I mean, let me back up and I can be more broad. How is the administrative officer expected to do this? Is it going to be something where they go and constantly look for problems that are underway? Or is there some process where they can be identified? We don't have our permitting. It's not exactly as well defined as some of this implies. It would need to be. So in thinking about how it would be done, I wasn't sure how it would be done, and basically it probably comes down to zoning, because the implication here is that there's zoning, and that if there's any property movement, that also the question of what's going to be done with it is part of that process. And we don't have that as part of our process.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a lot like how we deal with the Moon Brook watershed ordinance that we have. And Bill, you don't go out and look for things. You have.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that's one method that could be used here. If the AO had time to go see these things, but you also get a lot of questions and requests that
Yes.
just come into your office.
Yep.
That would handle some of this stuff.
Well, under administration in section 7, page 12, which wasn't on our list of things to do, does say that the administrative officer shall be appointed to administer this bylaw pursuant to 24 VSA, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
The AO shall administer this bylaw literally, and in doing so shall inspect the development, maintain records, enforce this bylaw, and perform all other necessary tasks to carry out the provisions of this bylaw and the statutory requirements. The AO shall not have the power to permit any land development that is not in conformance with this bylaw. So it seems to imply
Okay, go ahead.
that he does everything,
Yes,
including inspections, and so it's
yes.
Maybe
needs
doesn't,
to be proactive.
maybe doesn't specify how proactive.
Yeah, well, it doesn't.
Yeah, and somewhere in throughout, I guess I don't have it written here, but if there's a subdivision, it implies that if there's a subdivision, we know what's going to be done in that subdivision, and that may initiate something.
Yeah,
If
right.
there's nothing identified, but we don't identify. If they're going to build on it, we don't necessarily know as a result of the subdivision.
Yeah, because there's a building notice needs to be filed. Yeah.
Yes, that's
And there
not
should be-
part of this.
And they're supposed to be,
But you can go through the subdivision without that.
oh, absolutely.
And
But
And vice versa.
any building over so many square feet, right, Bill?
Over 500.
Pardon?
100 square feet.
100 square feet, so only a 10 by 10 building, which is really no more than a shed.
so that we catch anything that we wouldn't see in the subdivision.
Right.
And some of it may be exempt. If it's an outbuilding, it's
Yes.
exempt
Yes.
In certain circumstances,
in certain, yeah, to be determined.
based on the criteria there. Okay. So,
I'm, Sherman, were you done?
Yes, I'm done with that.
Okay.
besides the comments that I already made, on the table on page 2, there are blank spots where nothing's indicated, and I just had a question about those. That's on
So
page
like
2.
fill or grading,
Yep.
7 and
River
8.
corridor is nothing, flood hazard area is C, and floodway is nothing.
So, so the columns are, does the river corridor apply to these development features? Or flood hazard areas, does that apply, or the floodway? So the blanks would be there for 7 and 8, the river corridor doesn't apply.
And I put in NA,
Yeah. And the floodway wouldn't apply for number 7.
that's fine. Then we just need to put in NA as opposed to leaving it blank, I think.
Okay,
I mean, that would satisfy my curiosity. Page 3. D. Development review and river corridors. Section 1 exempted activities, D. I just put a question mark because it seems convoluted. And if there could be a simple explanation of what that means, that would be great.
D under 1 under C. Or which?
Yeah,
section?
yeah. So C, well, I guess what section are we in? 4C 1D,
Okay.
I guess is the actual reference.
Dana,
The other one, it says, it's F, same section, 4C 1F, subdivision of land that does not involve or authorize development. I'd like just an explanation of what that means. I understand what it says. I want to know the implications of that. Let's see. Page 4. Under 2, prohibited development in river corridor. So we're now looking at 4C 2. It says prohibited development in the river corridor, new structures, blah, 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 any other development. And then it says 3, sorry. I guess my question was on 4C3.
What page are you on? I'm sorry.
4.
Okay.
Permitted by administrative review. The following development activities meeting the developmental standards in the river corridor and section D1, D2 may be permitted directly by the, never mind, I don't have a question. I answered myself.
It's just a list of what can be done directly.
Well, yeah, the thing is, I guess I was confused. Okay, I thought it was under 2 and it was prohibited development, but this is a new section, so it's permitted. Anyway, more questions about definitions and abbreviations. Okay, D1, it talks about the gap, and I had the same problem when we were first reviewing these. It's so for
Page 5.
page 5, 4D1, infill. Development must be located no closer to the top of the bank, makes sense, than the existing primary structures, makes sense, within a gap that is no more than 300 feet. Gap of what?
The space between the new structure and the existing structure.
That should be more clearly identified then. 'cause I
That's
don't
still
get that.
mind boggling, those sketches and everything.
I had questions about both of those.
Same thing.
Just.
I just need an
it's not
explanation.
clear, yeah.
Yep, not clear. When you say both of those, Sean,
Figure 2 also.
okay, I've got that circled, so I think we both have questions about 1 and 2. You're talking about the downriver shadow, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I said explain.
Yep.
So those 2 areas for both me and Sherman, I think need to be clarified.
I had several questions as I went through this that were answered. You know, the next page or the next paragraph.
What page you on, Sherman?
5.
We were on 5 at the time.
Anything else, Dana?
I've got a question on page 6.
And then just quickly back to those 2 figures. I mean, I think that's something that we are going to have to, you know, develop, you know, the skill set and Bill's gonna need the skill set, and the public's just gonna have to be a little bit patient with us in trying to explain these.
I
because
just want it clear
Mr.
for myself
Yeah, what is-
what it is
what's
we're
the-
talking about. Yeah, what's it mean? Yep, same question, Sherman. Okay, page 6. Or it's under 2 base flood elevations and floodway limits. C, 2C. It says in the SFHA where the base flood elevation, blah, blah, blah. Flood insurance study and accompanying maps. It's the applicant's responsibility to develop the necessary data. What's the implication of that? What does that-
hiring an engineer to get the base flood elevation data,
Okay, I think that should be then spelled out.
which is that's in our floodplain ordinance now, I believe.
Then we should reference the floodplain ordinance. I think it's just, it's too much for somebody to have to try to wrap their mind around.
Well, it goes hand in hand with building in a flood hazard area.
Yeah.
Sure, but you should know what it says rather than having to go try to figure it out.
If we're struggling with it, it's only gonna get worse.
That's the point. And we can say that it goes with building in a flood area. Sure, but they should know what the implications are rather than having to read something that sounds like gobbledygook and they could easily ignore. And then it comes to us and we've got a problem. So anyway, I'm curious on the next page. So we're under developmental requirements. So that's D, 2 exempted activities, interior improvements or repairs to existing buildings that cost less than $500.
Yeah, that got me too.
It got you too?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you, what the hell is this? Why is $500? That seems like an arbitrary figure. What's,
It could be a FEMA thing.
well, I just like
Most
to know.
likely is.
but- You want an explanation on that too, Howard?
Yeah, that trouble makes it. I mean, you know, what's this for? Somebody wants to do some painting in the house or something, or what?
Yeah,
Or what's, you know, $500.
and it's not changing the footprint. I mean, everything else was talking about the footprint, and if you're not making
So
changes,
it's-
what difference does it make what it costs?
These are exempted.
But it's only exempted up to $500. If it's $501, all of a sudden it's not exempted. And so I'm thinking, why, what difference does it make? If you're making an interior adjustment and you want to hang Monets or Renoirs or something, and it's gonna cost you $3,000, that's up to you to decide. It's not changing the footprint, right? I mean, I don't know why that's there.
It's almost saying anything that's done.
But, yeah, on the one hand, it says that you can do anything. If it doesn't change the footprint. And now you're putting a dollar limit on it that says anything more than a can of paint.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. And maybe we can change that. Maybe that's something that's subject.
We should put footprint and exterior profile.
Well, you know, my concern with that.
Leave the interior alone.
Right, because
saying?
that'll allow you to do anything inside, like changing petitions.
Yeah.
Whatever, but by putting down that you can't change the building profile.
Yeah.
Means you can't change the roof lines, add a second story.
Actually, it did leave that open if it wasn't expanding the original foundation.
So then you could leave, then in which case then you take it, we don't put the profiles part in and take the money part out.
Yeah, take the money out. I mean, but
Yeah,
you know,
just the
do
money
we,
part
yeah.
out is-
Norm?
Well, I just had a couple concerns. First of all, Dana, Barbara, are you gonna send these comments to the gentleman before he comes down so he can address them?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes,
Dana, you got a very extensive and thoughtful list, and it might be better to, if you had time, to put it in writing, so that he has this information when he comes down, can think about it, and the meeting is more productive. And I think that goes for anybody. The lot.
Sure, Norman. The question was, we were having a discussion tonight, so I made sure I had all my questions written down, but not
Mhm.
typed up and submitted because I didn't have time.
Yeah.
Quite honestly.
No,
If it had been next week, I might have had time.
well, I understand that, and I'm not sure I heard everything you said. My sound is not clear tonight, but I just think it would, in order to make the best use of this gentleman's time, I don't know whether he's coming in person or he's gonna do it by Zoom, but if he had our concerns,
Today.
logically put out, as I'm sure you can outline, it would be helpful to all of us. That
I
meeting-
think that would be the next stage.
Next stage.
Good point, Norm. Anything else, Dana?
On page 9, developmental standards within the flood hazard area. No net loss of flood storage capacity, except, and that's one, and then A says except as needed to fill in existing basement or mitigate an existing structure. I just asked for an explanation in simple terms of what that language means, because if I don't know what it means, I can't explain it to somebody. You're with me, Sherman?
Yep.
Okay. I have all kinds of notes about definitions, but that's already been taken care of. There is a question that I have on page 10. It is structural standards number 11, subparagraph C. New and substantially improved structures in zone AO. What does that mean?
It's a FEMA zone,
It's a mapping.
that zone.
Yeah.
Can that be added as a clarification?
What do you, well,
I mean, in parentheses, say
Probably.
FEMA map, whatever, just because for me, that doesn't mean, I mean, maybe it's in there as zone AO in the definitions, which I didn't go back and look at. But I don't see it.
yeah, this is something a property owner should know if they're in the flood hazard area. Are they in the AO zone? Or are they in another zone? So, some of the stuff, Bill will keep track.
Informational building permit, which if they're doing, any interior renovation, adding a bedroom, things like that, or adding on, the informational building permit has that on there as a requirement already to find that information out.
I think it would be helpful for a novice for that to say FEMA flood zone AO. And then they can go figure it out.
There's a similar problem, pardon me for interrupting, on page 9, paragraph E4. It says in zones AE and A1-A30. And I never saw that defined either.
Yeah, I had that same question. I missed it, but thank you. Yep,
Yeah,
I had the same question. No,
I should have known.
Just keeping me honest. I went past that for some reason. There's also another term that I couldn't find defined as FIRM, the
Yep.
community's firm.
It's the it's a map. It's the
Okay.
firm. What does it stand for? But it's a FEMA map.
Okay,
It's the official FEMA map,
Flood insurance, something.
rate map. Yeah,
once again, that goes back to my question about any of the acronyms that are put in there should be defined somewhere.
Is it, it may be in back.
it may be in the back.
Yeah, I
It's
didn't
not.
see it.
Sure.
It's
No,
not.
is it?
Nailman said it's not, so I trust Norm on that one.
I'll check
Page
again, but
11. So we're under, I guess, five what? G. It's page 11. It's fully enclosed areas below the lowest floor. I don't know what DFE stands for. DER is Department of Environmental Regulation, but I don't know what a DFE is. So. Anyway, it's Roman numeral 1. Be solely or small, Roman numeral 1. Be solely used for parking, blah, blah, blah. And be designated to automatically equalize hydrostatic flood forces. I just wanted an explanation about that. I'm assuming that it means distributed, but and reduce the impact, but that wasn't clear to me. I think that's all I had. Yep, that's it.
Okay. Yes, it would be good if we knew the definition and we knew everything that they were referring to here. Some of it's going to be quite difficult and kind of goes with the territory of, as I said before, developing in a flood hazard area. It is up to that person. That person is notified that the property is in a flood hazard area, and it's up to that person to become versant in what FEMA requires. That's just part of this. Yes, we should know what this is, and we should be able to explain it. But a lot of the burden of this is on the people trying that want to do the development. And and this gives them the means to explain why it would fit or why it wouldn't fit. Or
Sure,
why it would be
I-
safe and why it wouldn't be safe.
I don't have any objections to the,
And there's some expense involved. There is expense involved for people trying to build in flood hazard areas.
sure. I think the simpler it is, the more palatable it can be for people to understand. But what I have found throughout my educational career is when people don't understand something, they immediately reject something. And if we throw in jargon and terminology, it is a great way to obfuscate communications and to get people's hackles up so that they are going to resist the big on their feet rather than comply. So, I mean, anything that we can do to make it more palatable or intelligible is in our best interest. That's
Yeah.
what I was saying.
Yeah.
Firm is flood insurance rate map.
I'm sorry?
Firm is flood insurance rate.
Thanks. I could have looked them up myself, but I was trying to get the questions down and they were just getting in my way.
And that's where the zones come in.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just looking at Mount Holly's, what they passed, what they've had in place, and see if they reworded any of this stuff or made it clear. And they pretty much just took it as the state brought it up.
So one of the things that I have also learned in my administrative career is that when someone adopts a model policy directly, what happens is that things get omitted that shouldn't be omitted, and explanations get omitted that would be helpful for people interpreting them. So as a policy and procedure aficionado for the better part of a quarter century, I've always tried to emphasize with people working on policies and procedures to make them as legally transparent as possible and as clear in expectations on the procedural end as possible so that people can follow them without being frustrated. And I think that with my level of experience, if I'm getting frustrated, I can only imagine how a homeowner might be getting frustrated on a 21-page document. So I also noticed that there was a lot of repetition. Now, the repetition may be necessary, but there was a lot of repetition of various expectations or provisions in different sections of the document that we read through through section 5. And sometimes that's just unavoidable.
Okay. Well, great, thank you,
Welcome.
one and all. So we'll do, the next meeting, we'll do section 6 and 7. I think it goes into definitions after that, yeah. So we may want to do definitions as well, what might be missing.
And that's the last section, right? Definitions.
Yes,
So we just finish it.
yeah. Great.
Barbara,
Yeah, Norm.
one thing I may have missed, I don't recall, but on page 1 in the beginning of the of the columns, etc., it has flood hazard areas, and I didn't see that defined in the definitions. And it just seems to me that those captions, because of on the summary table, ought to be very, very clearly understood.
Well, that would be the special flood hazard area, and I think maybe just for space, they didn't put the special,
SPA, SP,
the SFHA.
SFHA. Well, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe if SFHA were in parenthesis underneath the word areas, that would make it clearer, or at least give somebody
mm-hmm.
one way or the other, it should be right up front. It's the whole,
Right. And that's the part that's gonna be used the most to that table.
Yeah.
Really is.
We do need to also include the word Rutland in all of the blanks that appear for the bylaw.
Mhm. For sure.
They happen in a variety of different places. So there are a half dozen or so.
Okay. Anything else? All right. We move on to the minutes or announcements. Anyone have any announcements?
There's no subdivision update tonight on Goodrich, is that right?
If you have one.
That was for me. The Goodriches are withdrawing their subdivision. They're not
Oh.
gonna file a Mylar. They are overwhelmed with their neighbors' comments, so they're not. They're
Oh.
gonna file a Mylar, so the approval will expire and nothing will change.
They will
That's the one
not,
on Post Road.
they will not file a Mylar.
File a Mylar, so the approval will just expire and nothing will change.
You know, I finally got the chance to take a look at where the driveway was going to be. Just Wednesday, I guess it was, like transfer station. That's a tough, dangerous spot.
That had that was a minor issue compared to everything.
That was
So
minor?
It's done, it's all done. Doesn't matter. It's all
Okay.
done.
But it wasn't the driveway access?
That later, but it's yeah, they just said they're not gonna file a Mylar. So they weren't able to work through the issue, so they are just going to
Hmm.
not do anything, so it'll naturally will just end.
Okay, yeah. That's unfortunate. Any other announcements? Let's take a look at the minutes for December 5th.
Move to approve the minutes from December 5th.
Second.
Thank you. They look good to me.
Yeah, I didn't find anything.
Okay,
That says it all.
all right, I think we're ready for the question.
Yep.
All those in favor of the minutes as presented by Bill Sweet? Say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion to adjourn?
So
I
moved.
so moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.